So you worked on Elizabeth the Golden Age, which kind of covers the story of Mary Queen of Scots from Elizabeth's perspective. So did you take anything from that project with you here?
Just the knowledge.
Just knowledge.
The period knowledge, and also the knowledge of what the costume houses have, because I don't think anybody else had done that period extensively since we did that film. So I knew that the stock would be same stock, 12 years older, hanging on metal hangers, very sad. So that was a big kind of part of my decision making, actually.
So how much more research did you have to do?
Quite a lot, but actually we had the prep time was so short on this that had I not done those films, I don't know how I would have done it, because we really had to hit the ground running. We had about 15 weeks prep, and because of the knowing what was available to hire, and because we'd be filming in Scotland with rain, mud, sea, salt water, everything, loss and damage would bankrupt the company, and I'd probably never work again. So I knew we had to make everything. So that means that it's a very different approach. So yes, you're constantly researching, but it had to be done. It was a kind of multitasking attack.
I was really struck by how, I mean, when you watch it, obviously the dresses, they're supposed to be from like the 16th century, but there's still like a fierceness and modernity to them. So how historically accurate did you want them to be?
If I'm going to be a purist, they're totally historically inaccurate. But I think the freedom to make those decisions comes from knowing the period sufficiently to know what it should have been, to make informed decisions to underline the story you want to tell. Interesting. I mean, they are all made of denim. We made everything.
Yes, I saw that.
I think there are 5 portrait moments which are not denim. Everything else is denim for many reasons. Number one, budget. We could buy it at £2 a metre. We could put it into a factory because factories are used to handling denim. It comes in many shades and colours. I was interested for this story in having limiting the number of fabrics I used. I didn't know I'd come down to one, but I wanted to limit the fabrics so that I was manipulating a fabric to tell the story, because what I didn't want was a kind of a revolving doors of here comes another queen in another frock, because I didn't think it was that story. And I really wanted the clothes to feel, they didn't have dry cleaners, I wanted them to feel lived in, and I wanted the dirt and the patina to be part of the decoration. So I needed a fabric that gets better with wear. And we all know what our jeans look like when we take them off. They're sort of molded to our body. They look quite good when they're dirty. So denim, and also, so the artistic reasons were I wanted the men to be sexy. Elizabethan men are not sexy in pumpkin breeches and tights.
So put them in jeans.
Put them in, well, quite complicated jeans that are very crutch-centric, because Elizabethan men, it was all about the leg and the crutch. And I have been fitting some models for an event later this week in some of the men's clothes, and you just have to look them in the eye and say, we are going to pad your crutch, and get on with it, which is what we did. They take it quite well, but it's quite interesting. Normally you're putting fillets down girls' bras, and for the guys to say we're going to pad your crutch is a new take. And I wanted, I think the denim brings a kind of a modernity and an accessibility. So when I landed on the idea of denim, I thought, great, done it, job done, now we just do it. And actually it got increasingly more difficult, because the first thing we did was to make an Elizabethan doublet out of denim, and it was shockingly horrible, because it was just a really self-conscious costume. So I had a sort of meltdown and went home early and thought about it. And then what I realized is that we in fact, it was doing the right thing, I just hadn't recognized it. We carry so much baggage of denim in our lives. It's part of our lives, so we have a preconception of it. So what I realized I needed to do was to kind of blend the modern and the period to create a sense of the period, but I had to balance it out. So for example, the first thing we did with Saoirse was to make a fitting toile in denim. So we went into denim rather than calico, so that I started to understand what I thought I was trying to do. And we made a fitting shape, Elizabethan to my reconceived ideas, but then we put a modern shirt cuff on the end of the sleeve. And that was a kind of breakthrough moment where I thought, oh, now I understand that actually every costume has got to be a balance of, do we put orange top stitching? Do we use rivets? What's the modernity that we bring to it, and keep this balance?
It's like a mix and match a little bit.
Yeah, on a good day.
Well, what were the actors' reactions when they came in and they saw that they're going to be wearing denim?
They were, some actors vary in their understanding of costume, and to begin, a certain part of the journey, you're only using, I had mood boards and reference, but you're using words to describe visuals. So sometimes they were worried, sometimes they were into it. But I think most of the men would come into the fitting room thinking, oh God, here we go, tights. This is, let's just get through it. And then by the end of, there were a lot of fittings, but what was really great was that there was a kind of swagger and crutch awareness that the men had. They felt, they came out feeling really great and feeling really
They're like all historical movies.
They were sort of strutting and peacocks. Yeah, they felt good.
So when people watch the movie, do you think they can tell like where the denim is, or is it mostly like hidden and distressed and you can't really find it?
Because of wanting the pattern, everything is distressed. I mean, in the 16th century, everybody rode, so men lived on their horses. So anybody who has ridden, that, your pristine jodhpurs are caked with horse stuff after a day's riding. So these guys, they would have been filthy. They would have probably been very smelly, but their clothes, would have just been covered with this dirt. So it is very distressed. We didn't wash the denim because I didn't want it to pill or have any pile on it. But we had a huge textile team that were doing aging and breakdown.
I want to talk about the color palettes of Mary and Elizabeth, because Mary's she's mostly in blues, and Elizabeth, she's in darker colors and like some burnt shades. So how did you land on those aesthetics for them?
I'm trying to tell the story, I think. Mary as a queen when she returns to Scotland, it's entirely pragmatic. Her story is I've been dealt a hand of cards, how do I make this work? And Scotland was a very poor country, it was very unstable. The lairds, the lords were all feuding, they had no sense of nationhood, they would swap allegiance for money or for land. So I wanted hers to be very much a developing wardrobe that evolved. She comes back from France as a widow. She's lost her title, her jewellery, her lifestyle, and she's in mourning as a French queen, which the mourning was white. So she's in a very pale denim, and as she kneels and vomits into the salt water, the indigo of her underlayer starts to bleed through. So indigo is the colour for Scotland, so that's the beginning of her transition. And then she's in various shades of blue, which crudely denote her confidence, her self-esteem. So when she's pregnant and produced an heir, she's in the very vibrant cobalt blue, and it gets darker. So that's her kind of journey. Elizabeth, her clothes are entirely strategic in that she came to the throne. It was a hard journey. She learnt hard lessons on the way. She was declared illegitimate. She was sexually compromised by her uncle. She was sent to the Tower. But when she became queen, she was at the top of a very powerful pyramid. And she knew the power of her appearance. She used it to replace all the iconography of the Virgin Mary in Protestant England. So her clothes, she has the Net-a-Porter account. She goes outfit by outfit. So I used colour to show this is a complete outfit, this is a complete outfit. So she's changing and changing until she gets smallpox, which is a huge kind of loss of health, self-esteem. She's undermined by reports of Mary's charisma and beauty. So she goes very monochrome from that, then kind of lifting herself, dragging herself up to the point where she knows she's going to meet.
Mm-hmm. So it represents the arcs. I really like that. Well, for the climactic scene when they meet, which did not happen in real life, I love the way that scene was shot because you don't really see their costumes. It's like, because you're supposed to focus on their words and what they're saying to each other, but it's a lot of close-ups, and then like the sheets are just obscuring their costumes. How did you approach that scene?
Well, with a lot of thought to not see anything in the end. No, because as you said, it isn't historically accurate. So number one, that's a very liberating scene in that you're clearly not telling a true historical story. I did spend a lot of time thinking about that scene because had I known they were going to shoot it, I might have approached it differently, but I think it still works. I didn't want their clothes to be distracting. So really I had to work out what their palette was and where they were for that meeting, and then reverse engineer their storylines out of that, because by that point, that scene is so extraordinary that I really didn't want the audience to be going, wow, she's wearing that. It would have not been good.
Yeah. Well, Mary's last outfit when she's about to be beheaded, she's wearing a black robe and then she takes it off and it's this bright red dress. And I was wondering, was the red in the script or did you pick it to symbolize like bloodshed?
No, the red is historically accurate.
Okay.
Mary, that was the statement of her execution. She wanted to be known as a Catholic martyr, and red is the colour for that. And that's what she did. She had a red chemise on underneath. I don't think it came away like that. It would have taken the ladies in waiting a few minutes to unpin it.
So what are you working on now?
I'm just starting prep on Emma by Jane Austen.
Oh, okay. Another
Low
period
budget,
piece.
no time,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, Alex. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here in a little bit.
Thank you.